Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Magic the Gathering Commander review. And today we are talking about, I may mispronounce this, or I may just pronounce it the way I pronounce it, and you guys pronounce it differently, but it's Llawan Cephalid Empress, which is, even though this is the original Torment art, and it's no longer a Cephalid legend, it is now an Octopus Noble, which is so cool. I had no idea this change was made until I was doing my Aboshan video, which go check out that one. I love cephalids. And now, even more so, I love the octopus tribe even more. Cephalids specifically are still my favorite of the octopus type, but now that they're octopi, it's just really cool. So, the Cephalid Empress is a 2/3 that costs 3 generic mana and 1 blue mana. And it has 2 lines of text here. When Llawan Cephalid Empress enters, return all blue creatures your opponents control to their owner's hand. So a mono blue board wipe for your opponents, which is kind of cool. It's not that powerful because it's really dependent on what your opponents are playing, but we have ways to get around that and to take full advantage of that. And secondly, your opponents can't cast blue creature spells, which is very, very cool. I love that. No card rulings, very straightforward. And Shifting Sky was the card I picked to synergize because if on turn 3 we get this down and we pick a color, like blue, then we can turn all non-land permanents into blue permanents. Then on turn 4 we cast the Llawan, and then we'll bounce all of those creatures, right? All blue creatures. We'll bounce all those creatures back to your opponent's hands, which will be a one-sided board wipe. Very powerful, especially for 4 mana in blue. And to talk about the deck ideas, the deck idea that I have for Llawan is actually she goes as a secondary commander for my Cephalid or Octopus type deck. And this deck is all about controlling the board, being very political, and tapping down creatures and permanents your opponents control to encourage attacks, to encourage blocks, as well as to get my own value going and to overvalue the rest of the table, which is just so much fun. I love this deck so much. It's so cool. A popular deck idea on EDH Rec is more of a controlling strategy where you are wanting to have everything be blue, so that way your opponents essentially cannot play creatures for the rest of the game, which is a very powerful effect. There's a card, if you know what I'm talking about, which I'll mention here in a second, that this resembles. If it makes it so your opponents can't cast blue creature spells, and it affects all of your opponents, that's just a little oppressive and powerful. And lastly, to focus on its new and everlasting type as Octopus, Llawan can now be a commander for a sea creatures deck, and it would fit the criteria of a sea creature, which is really cool. Whelming Wave, Spawning Kraken, Serpent of Yawning Depths. There's more cards coming out that care about octopi, which is really cool. I'm so excited. I think it'd be fantastic to have an octopus tribal deck. That would be very cool. I'd love to hear your guys' comments about that too. How do you guys feel about cephalids officially becoming octopi from here on out? And that is going to do it for Llawan Cephalid Empress. It is the I mentioned earlier that this card sounds a little similar to another very powerful card, and it's because this is the blue version of Iona, and Iona, which we'll talk about in a future video, is a white angel that makes it so a target player just can't cast spells of a color you choose. That card is so powerful that it's banned in the Commander format, and this does it to all of your opponents from casting blue creatures. Now, of course, setting some things aside, obviously, it's a little dependent on what's at the table. If your opponents are not playing with blue cards, you're going to need to make ways to make those creatures blue, like Shifting Skies. And then, of course, even though it prevents your opponents from casting blue creature spells, it does not prevent them from casting any other type of spell. So if they're a Spell Slinger deck, or a Super Friends deck, or even an enchantment, artifact, or battle deck, there are other permanent types that they can play around and use to fight you. They just can't play creature spells. So it is a very powerful Iona effect, but it only affects creatures, so bear that in mind. With that said, you're in blue, you can easily build a very powerful controlling stacks deck with Llawan at the helm, and make it so your opponents essentially can't play the game. Very powerful, and I personally love Llawan as one of my commanders for my Cephalid deck. It is a very fun deck to play with, so I'd love to hear your guys' comments below, anything I missed, and there's any synergies I didn't talk about. I will mention, because I haven't yet, it is F tier. That's just simply because it's not a popular card, so it doesn't get built around a lot, which is sad, but I think that just means an opportunity for us players to build around this commander and give it some more homes to live in, which I think is very fun as an opportunity for deck builders out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!